I had a pretty weird childhood growing up. My mom was a really devout Christian, while my dad was a really devout follower of the Nation of Islam. And I remember growing up, my dad would always try to force me to say this greeting, right? And this is how the greeting goes. As-Salaam, Alaikum. Peace be upon you. That's what Dad said it meant, but peace is the last thing I experienced when the foreign language left the lips of my father, who was so distant that when I finally met him when I turned 4, I thought he was a foreign invader there to steal the piece of land that me and my mom had lived on. As-Salaam Alaikum. These were the first words I heard in the dark synagogue where men proclaimed the name of God, but God did not know theirs. God was nowhere to be found in this temple meant to honor him. Maybe that's why tears fell from my small and scared eyes. Maybe that's why it felt like God didn't hear me, and I felt every crack of Dad's belt hit my tender skin because apparently my cries disrespected God's house. I am certain. This is where I learned to hate God because I thought God hated me. As-Salaam Alaikum. I remember being taught the proper response. Wa Alaikum Salam, and unto you peace. I remember those words I was forced to recite felt so cold leaving my lips that eventually it was so routine that it became numbing, and I felt nothing. I felt nothing from my father. My lips wished peace, but my heart and mind wished war upon my father. I wished every time he would walk down an alley, he'd get beat up for every time he tried to beat my mom. I wished nothing in his life would go right to make up for how wrong he was all my life. I wished that he would spend the rest of his life in fear, just like I knew I would spend all my life in fear, scared to ask questions, scared to look another in their eyes because I feared they might find what's in mine, scared to cry, scared to fail, scared to be around other men, scared I would never be a good man, scared to share that I picked up the same cross that Jesus Christ did so I could follow him. I am a 23-year-old married man, still scared of everything, still traumatized, still waiting, not waiting for him to finally pick me up, but waiting for him to finally breathe his last so I can stop feeling conflicted for hating the man that made me and loving him all the same. I am tired of feeling guilty for feeling. I am done feeling sad about the dad I never had, and I am sorry. I am sorry to every kid I ever envied because they had what I never will. I hate the fact that I still love them. I hate the fact that when I look in the mirror, I see my mom, but I behave way too much like my father, so I'm always reminded that I didn't fall too far from the tree. I'm reminded every time I get excited about my studies. Every time I lose myself in these books I never finish because learning one thing at a time is just so boring every time. I seek for deeper meaning in these movies full of magic. I'm reminded that the only reason I can claim young, black, and genius is because I inherited my intelligence and my love for learning from him. I'm reminded every time I look at the man my mother married, because the only difference between him and my father is that only one helped make me. Both still taught me what it means to be in pain. Both still made mom turn her back on the only son to offer love. Both are the reason why I prefer the friendship of women over men. Both are the reason why I feel less than a man because I don't meet their standard of manhood. Both are the reason why all it takes is for one person to criticize me, tell me I'm wrong, or something as simple as me losing my wallet and I end up worrying, second-guessing myself, struggling with anxiety for the rest of the week. Both are the reason why I prefer being sad over happy, because when you're happy, you begin to expect better, only to be disappointed. At least when I'm depressed, I already hate myself enough to not expect anything from anyone else. I'm reminded of how alike me and my father are. Every time I ramble on about nothings that turn into somethings, revealing all the emotions I carry inside. So every conversation turns into an intervention. Maybe that's why I deflect and ask others about their issues, not because I care about theirs, but because I don't want to deal with mine. I'm reminded every time I look at a bottle of alcohol and think about the reason why I don't drink. I'm reminded every time my anger breaks out the cage I built for it. Every time me and my wife argue and I ball up my fists, I hate myself and feel guilty because in an instant I'm taken back to when I was a kid, leaned up against the wall, bawling my eyes out because dad came over drunk again, begging for money again. I could see the fear in my mom's eyes. But as if looking at the fear in mine gave her a dose of liquid courage, she led him out the door for what I thought was the last time I would see her face. Next thing I remember, I'm rushing to the elevator doors, pressing those buttons, felt like pressing defibrillators against my chest to resurrect my flatlining courage. In a few moments that pretended to be millennia, I'm sitting in the back of my father's Benz he can't afford, while he's bent on making my mother feel guilty for the money he was forced to give me to help put me through college. But I guess Manipulation wasn't working fast enough, so next thing I know, slurs and curse words were being thrown almost as fast as their hands were. My mom, coming back to her senses, remembering the 8-year-old boy in the back who was a witness to all this, said, "Stop, your son is in the back." Now imagine with me, your middle name is Troy, and my parents are your parents, and in response to your mom, your father says, "I don't give an F about Troy, just give me the money." Truthfully, this doesn't hurt as much as it probably should. See, you were always a smart kid, so it's what you always assumed, and quite frankly, the feeling was mutual, but what hurts the most is the shame you carried with you over a decade later because you were too weak, too afraid to save the day like all those heroes you look up to in those video games you play all day just to see a happy ending to a sad story. But it was in that moment of despair that I promised myself that I would never be weak again. I promised I would never let another woman walk out the door along with the devil. I decided to dedicate my life to a never-ending struggle, to protect others who struggle, to get away from the evil they can't seem to let go of, the evil that masquerades as an angel of light. I didn't know it then, but it was in that moment that the oracle was born. But don't miss the point of this poem. It's not to bash my father, my mother, or even the man my mother married. This right here, this is all of me. This is the poem I promised to never write. This is my self-care. This is my therapy session. This is me trying to be a good steward over the emotions and the mental God blessed me with. So think of this as me finally cleaning out my closet, clearing out the boxes in my attic, or exercising these demons out of the basement. Think of this as me finally taking my interest to God. God the Father I hate to acknowledge. God the Father I pretend, whose presence wasn't always present, so I can keep feeling sorry for myself. So I won't let Jesus give me healing. God, the Father that made me, raised me, protected me, provided for me, kept me safe, and gifted me with this voice so I could be his oracle and he could be my salvation. This is me letting go and not holding on. This is me making a change and not making excuses. This is me publicly performing open heart surgery, not placing band-aids over lacerations. I'm past debating, no more waiting. It's time I face this with the blessed weapon shooting out of my mouth in submission to the Holy One, and I'm sorry. To anyone, these words may offend, but this is more than poetry. This is my road to recovery, and I won't apologize for seeking healing in the one gift God blessed me with. So, if it's any consolation, As-Salaam Alaikum.